And now it's time to consider the path of your feet, for crying out loud.
So this is from an account that's a self-proclaimed kind of ex-member of the church. And her whole account, as far as I can tell, I did like a 30-second once-over of the account. She produces a lot of content that is pretty antagonistic towards the church. So this is one of her clips. I wanted to dig into it because I've been seeing some wording that is pretty similar across a lot of other clips, and I want to talk about that wording today. So there isn't any like audio. It's like a music. It's so it's just kind of music, and she's dancing to the music. It looks like she could do a mean cha-cha slide, which is super cool. That's great at weddings. But it says POV, Mormonism and its grooming for marriage tactics, walk into a nightclub. And then the whole song is like, where the girls at? Where the girls at? You know? So that's kind of like, it's a funny meme. Great meme. Grade A memeing right there. However, the words that I wanted to talk about were grooming for marriage. It's something that I've never seen before. But all of a sudden this week, I saw it like maybe 5 or 6 times from different accounts, specifically related to our church, that our church specifically and our religion is grooming children and women for marriage. So I'd like to get your feedback on that. What are your thoughts?
I mean, like, yeah, that's like saying that, high school is grooming you to take the SAT, like, yeah, of course it's grooming you for marriage. It's grooming men for marriage too. Like a single male over 25 is like a menace to society or something. That's the quote from Brigham Young, isn't it? I can't remember exactly, but that's what it is. Like, yeah, of course we're preparing people for marriage. It's one of the greatest milestones in your life is to commit yourself to somebody else and start creating a family. So, I mean, the word grooming is really kind of like shoehorned into that idea of preparing for marriage. And like, it doesn't fit. It's a very inflammatory word to begin with. So like the fact that they're trying to just find a way to connect the church with the word grooming is, I mean,
it's pretty sinister.
Yeah.
It's like, let's talk about icks, gross. It's like, that is disgusting to say that the church is grooming, because grooming is typically related to like sexual grooming. So it's typically related to like predators and things like that. And so the whole idea of grooming is that you have this kind of predator that is basically building an emotional tie with this like vulnerable victim, right? And this vulnerable victim is going to be manipulated later for the pleasure of the abuser, right? That's pretty standard issue definition of grooming. And so I don't understand how she's getting from that definition to the church parents by encouraging their kids to get into healthy, happy relationships that will last for the rest of their lives is going to be evil. Like, what's the pleasure for the abuser at that point? Like, what kind of pleasure are they getting from that? I don't know. It's like just seeing their kids happy. Is that it? It's like, I don't get it.
It's maniacal. That's what it is, because they're teaching young women to be the most selective with their choice about who they marry and who they procreate with.
Yeah.
Like, they're teaching young men and young women to, look for someone who passes one of the most stringent, like, sanctity tests and get
moral codes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the highest moral codes out there. And they're saying you should prepare and find yourself to be worthy enough to be with someone who's also worthy enough. And if you can't find someone like that, then, keep trying. Don't lower your own value. Right. So like this, it's so like maniacal to like groom people into thinking that, you should find someone that you can live the rest of your life with and build a family with that also meets your standards and also shares your religious views. I don't know what the end game to that evil.
Well, so here's the question that I had. Like, maybe I missed it in her cha-cha slide, but I didn't see any captions that suggested a solution. Like, what's the alternative? What are parents supposed to do? Because she's not speaking to the church. She's speaking to parents at that point. It's like, okay, so parents aren't allowed to give their children the greatest gift that they received themselves, which is their marriage, which the children were a natural outgrowth of that marriage. It's like the mental gymnastics that you have to do to get there is just it's gold medal winning. It's like it's very impressive. I don't understand what her solution was, but what do you think her idea was to replace that? Like, what's the problem?
I don't know, because like to put pressure on your children and to groom them, like, can you even want that for them and express that desire to your children that they should?
Is that allowed?
Is that allowed? Is that grooming? I don't
Like,
know.
why are these people like the great moral arbiters of our society? It's like you've got just like middle-aged women in yoga pants dancing in front of a camera, judging everybody else for just wanting their kids to be happy. It's like,
yeah, this is the Socrates of our time, and she's got great dance moves, to prove it. So
yeah,
I think that I don't know what the alternative is, except just like have no standards for your children and no like desires for them, no dreams for them in terms of what you want them to accomplish and who you want them to be with. It's okay if you find a dirtbag that treats you poorly and doesn't follow your moral code and drags you down with them. You should be able to do that. You should have the power to do that as a young woman, apparently. Like, yeah, you can do that, but nobody wants you to do that because that's not good for you, right?
Right. Well, what's so bad about marriage is the thing, because there's a lot of nasty presuppositions that she's loaded into that little comment, that she was dancing all around. And one of those presuppositions is that marriage is a net negative. Where is she getting that from, and why is it negative? Right. I don't really understand that, but I did want to pull something up. I have done a little extra research. And this is from the National Library of Medicine. So it's not coming from BYU. It's not coming from the church at all. But there are some pretty cool points in here. Basically, it says nearly 3 decades of research evaluating the impact of family structure on the health and well-being of children demonstrates that children living with their married biological parents consistently have better physical, emotional, and academic well-being. It also says that consequently, society should make every effort to support healthy marriages and to discourage married couples from divorcing. Was this from some kind of radical Brigham Young cane thumping prophet out there? No, this is from the government. This is from PubMed Central, the National Library of Medicine. Like, what in the world is she doing? Going out there and saying, like, yeah, marriage is bad. Like, this is objectively, according to her standards, according to the science, according to the great thinkers of our day, societies need marriage and should do everything they can to support marriage. Why is she tearing it down, is my question. Like, why is marriage bad?
Maybe it's, I'm going to focus on the grooming for marriage. Maybe she doesn't have any problem with marriage. Maybe she thinks that people are being brainwashed into thinking it's good, which it is. So I don't think I'm flexible enough to do the contortionist movements to mentally land in the same spot, but I'm trying. I just don't think that, like, if you're grooming, quote unquote, someone for marriage, which they have the full choice for, and you shouldn't get married until you're an adult. That all the church, the church totally agrees on that. In fact, the church is very stringent on how you should behave before you get married, so you don't run into issues. Like, I don't know what she's going at here. I don't know what the evil.
I don't know what the aim is.
The church.
Yeah.
Why would the church want you to, what extra control or manipulation can they exert on you to make the best decision of your life?
Right.
This is kind of a silly thing to think about. I think it's silly.
It is very silly. No, but one of the things I do want to point out, and this might be just as cynical and twisted as her grooming for marriage argument, but I do want to point out that this woman is a therapist in Utah. And so one of the things that I've noticed is, like, there's been a big trend of people that leave the church and then start spewing anti-LDS materials all over the internet. A lot of them happen to be therapists, and therapists specifically in Utah. So the interesting thing to me about all of this is, like, if she's spewing that marriage is bad and all of that, does that, I would imagine, I'm no genius or anything like that, but I would imagine that's probably good for business for her,
I mean, it doesn't hurt, I don't think, because, people who don't get married tend to be lonelier, I would assume, or people who disrupt or break their marriage tend to be unhappy. And you know, that's kind of where therapy thrives, is with people who are unhappy with their life, right? So
Right.
I don't know. Is she just like farming new clients by hating on marriage?
It sounds
don't
like
know.
it's a marketing tool. Like, and to help people understand, like, these people are using the guise of being professionals and being all concerned about your health and your safety and your well-being, blah 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 blah. However, they're giving advice that is, by the standards of the PubMed Central, the National Library of Medicine, is completely destructive to society. So that's the problem that I see with that. Is just like, wait a second, you've got like a big, you got some splaining to do, basically. Like,
Oh, yeah.
why are you tearing families apart, or like, just even because one of the patterns that I've seen is that if there are people out there that are going through a really difficult time and they have a lot of doubts and they're not sure about themselves, they've lost their sense of identity, and then they start seeing things like that, it doesn't actually help them stay in a healthy and happy marriage. I know 3 families at this point, and I'll probably go into this in greater detail in a later episode, but I now know personally 3 families where the wife have seen content like that, and basically they woke up, they were like, you know what? I've been oppressed, you know, and they decided that they were going to divorce their family. So they divorced their families, they leave the husband with the children, and then they flee. And they go and they travel the world and they focus on themselves because their therapist told them that your happiness is the most important thing in your life, like your happiness. And I don't think that's true, because marriage, like, you can't have that attitude in marriage. Marriage is all about sacrificing yourself for the happiness of others. It's like, especially with kids, you have a spouse. It's like, yeah, the last person you really think about in marriage is yourself. And so, like, the idea of like all of these people coming out, it's like, it's incredibly destructive to families. It's very cynical, and it's not helpful to society at large. I'm probably being heavy-handed with that, but what are your thoughts?
I heard someone compare marriage to a 3-legged race once, you know, where 2 people tie 2 of their legs together and they kind of have to go for it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's very clunky and it's restrictive in a sense when you know, you're very like awkward when you start, but you don't quit, you know, like that's not going to make you better, or you can't even finish the race if you quit. Like, you need to like learn the rhythm of your partner, and you need to work together to actually make it to the end. I feel like all I hear nowadays is, if it doesn't work for you, just quit. If it's not working for you, just quit. Well, sometimes you just need to change, because sometimes you're just a piece of garbage, you know? Like, that just happens. Like, people are dirtbags. People are fallen. They're imperfect. Maybe one of those imperfections you're holding on to a little too tight and identifying with, and because of that, you would rather divorce your partner than fix that problem. And that's
Right.
a broad sweeping generalization, of course. But I just don't think that like positioning marriage as this evil thing that everyone's being groomed towards is going to help anybody, really. Like, I don't see that. I don't have the cool dance, so I don't know if a lot of people listen to us on that front.
Well, you know,
I think that
I am one for quoting movies, and this one really made me think of The Princess Bride. You know, life is pain, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. Is this woman selling something? Yes. Like, she's selling something, and she is out there telling you that, like, if you are uncomfortable or if you're going through a hard time, that's weird. That's not normal, and you need to get help for that. It's like, well, you know, there are some cases out there where like, if you're getting abused and stuff like that, get the crap out of that relationship. We're not advocating for abuse or anything like that, but if you're having a hard time, or if you're struggling, if you're arguing with your partner, don't just give up. You know, it's like, society needs you, people need you, communities need you, children need you, your future children, your grandchildren, they need you to stay together. And just remember that before you make any kind of hasty decision in a bad place.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. We'll have to practice our dance moves so people can
Yeah,
She was
that's
better
the
on
problem. We just got to do some of
not
the cha-cha
dance.
slides, you know, and come up with some quirky kind of sayings.
Get some
But
music in there. Oh yeah.
but if you had to come up with one caption to rebut her caption that we could dance to, what would that caption be?
Oh shoot. I don't know. You put me on the spot. I just
I'm
think
sorry.
that,
Yeah.
like, just I can't say enough about marriage and family. You just need to learn that you're not the main character as soon
Mm,
as you get married or as soon as you have kids. It's not your story anymore. Let go of that. You're not the
right.
center of the world. You are the. There's a poem by Khalil Gibran called Children, and he says that you are the bow that God is pulling back so that he may launch your children into the future. And that
Mm,
that comes with a lot of strain and a lot of stress and a lot of pain. But that will launch your children into such a better place than you are currently. And marriage is a part of that. It's a two-piece bow. And the fact that she can't seem to see the benefit of that, or thinks that it's evil that we should be promoting it, is really what she's doing. She's thinking it's bad. We're indoctrinating people into loving marriage. I just think she's off base. I think
yeah.
it's just kind of a silly thing. I can't take it seriously.
Could we maybe create a caption that said something like "therapist grooming people for therapy" or something like that? Like maybe
Yeah,
I could start dancing to
grooming.
that. It's like it's just marketing for her.
Yeah, it really is. And like, the more unhappy women there are, the more money she makes. So,
Yeah. So she's grooming people for therapy. That's
gotta
that's like
respect the
that's
hustle. Yeah, I
gotta
the hustle.
respect it. Yeah, that's a mean business model right there.